Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask the Unfaithful Shorts. This is short episode number 3, and it's about when we're feeling special and unique and when that's damaging. So, what does that mean, special and unique? Okay, so this is kind of like at the beginning when we're looking for help, right? Or wanting to get better, or we're kind of, our pants are on fire and we have to look into something and get better. And we get into the situation where we're like, I'm nothing like these other people who are in this. I'm not a loser like them. My problems are my problems. I can control this. I just have to stop doing what I did, just use my willpower. So another thing is kind of being told a really great sort of nice path to take and making adjustments to that when it's already kind of a proven path. So, oh, well, I'll only meet with my therapist or coach every other week. I don't really need to read what they gave me. I don't need to do the homework so much. I'll just show up. That'll be enough. So those things are not good. I don't need help. I can do this myself. There are plenty of books on this I can follow, or hey, I'll just listen to that podcast. All of that is based on the ingrained idea that I don't have to do what everyone else who has been successful has done because I'm unique, I'm special, and I have to be that or something sort of is taken away from me. So what has to happen in order for us to kind of break that and be able to get the benefits of everything that will help us is that we have to surrender, which is not the nicest word. None of us like that word. Nobody thinks that surrender is good, right? Oh, I'm going to wave the white flag. That's always good. No, we don't think that way. The problem with that is if we have the attitude that we're unique and special and really have to be to maintain our own good thinking about ourselves, with that attitude, we're holding on to the belief that we're actually in control over all things in our life. Because to do otherwise, we diminish our confidence, our self-belief in the image of ourselves that we've kind of sold to everyone else and ourselves that we aren't and can't be flawed. So it becomes kind of like image at all costs, right? Even though we might not even realize it's an image anymore because we've bought it. We've bought our own BS, man. So if I surrender, it also means that I have to admit that I don't know the answer to somebody else. And that runs contrary to the other part that we were talking about, that image that we've really sold to other people, that this is who we are, that perfection, or that I don't care, or that I can do anything. But here's the problem. If we don't surrender to the idea that we can't control this at all, or to the extent that we are totally emotionally settled and thus connected with our partner fully, then we can't get healthy. And that has big negative results. So what is surrender? It can be defined this way. Surrender is the total and complete acceptance of the reality of our situation. And that reality is that we're trying to meet a deep need externally, but we don't have the tools yet or the skills to meet it internally, which is what we have to be able to do. Because it's a deep unconscious drive, if we can't see it, we can't fix it. So it's not just, okay, here's the behavior I can see sometimes, or at least when it's brought to my attention. Oh, here's the behavior I can see. I can stop that, but that's not enough because it's what's driving it that we need to stop. So surrender is made difficult by a few things. One, when we have false pride, which is what I was talking about, that kind of belief in that self-concept that we put out there and we promote and don't get in touch with our real selves because that's who we've promoted and that's who we believe we are, and it isn't really true. So another part is when we cannot stand the idea that we're not as we imagined ourselves to be. That's really hard. It's hard to break that image and see the reality because it's usually something that we consider to be less than that perfect projection that we put out there. Another thing that makes it difficult is when we tend to internally minimize the severity of the problem. Now, if we're doing it externally, we're certainly doing it internally. Another part of that is when we cannot admit to ourselves that we have things that drive us that we're not aware of. There's a problem when we don't surrender. Big problem. Without it, we're not going to have the deep motivation, the meaning, and the resultant purpose that we get from that to create the energy to sustain the progress or to accept help. We also won't be able to create a foundation from which we can spring to do all the work that's ahead of us. Lastly, we will fail. Please just trust me on this. You will fail. Please trust me on this. I've seen it literally hundreds of times in people who come and go in SLAA, in substance abuse treatment, where I used to be an executive director, a clinical director, and a therapist, and so on. And in the vernacular of 12-step, we who continue in recovery have to step over the bodies. And you don't want to be one of those bodies. Here's the deal. When we surrender, there's this monumental shift. I mean, absolutely monumental shift that takes place in us. There's a fear of maybe we don't know what next to do. It helps if you have somebody to help you with that. There's also, with this monumental shift, a piece of having given up something that's been so hard to maintain, although we may not have known that it was hard and taking a lot of energy emotionally and otherwise until we actually do surrender. There's also a few things that can scare us off from surrendering and doing this work. And that's when we surrender, there's an existential crisis. There's this gap between the self-soothing behavior that we've been doing, whether that's affair or porn or masturbation, compulsive masturbation, or sex or emotional affairs, and not having established healthy behaviors and introspection. Introspection really means I'm going to reclaim my lost self. So that gap is hard. And there's a time piece in that. When we start to acquire these new skills and tools that help fulfill us and soothe us in a healthy way, then there's far less of this existential crisis going on, which is hugely anxiety producing. So another thing that scares us off is having to feel the feelings now that are coming up, because when we self-soothed, they were suppressed, right? They were pushed down. And when that's gone and we don't have a healthy way of processing them yet, those emotions can be big, really big. They can overwhelm us. They can be quite often volatile and almost certainly feel intolerable to us. And that's scary. So just know that the more work you do on that, on self-regulating and understanding why you're feeling those things, the more tolerable those feelings will be. We have to learn healthy ways of dealing with them. You do that with people who are there to help you. The last piece is hope. How do we get hope? Because hope drives us. Hope gives us meaning, which in turn gives us purpose and motivation and creates motion. A lot of that can come from seeing people who have had success in this traveling the same road that we are. People who, if we're in connection with them, because connection is really the opposite of the problem. The opposite of the problem isn't, I'm going to get rid of all these behaviors. That's necessary, yes. So the opposite of the problem isn't sobriety, it is connection. When we give up our uniqueness, we find that other stories have a lot in common, even tangentially with ours. So we lose that sort of terminal uniqueness. Terminal because you'll be one of those bodies that other people who are in recovery are going to have to walk over and note, I don't want to go that direction. That hearing other people's story helps us relate to them. And so we have to stick around long enough to be able to hear those stories to get rid of that, oh, I'm nothing like those people. People in recovery who see themselves as unique, well, A, they're not really in recovery if they see themselves as unique. Because if this is the bell curve of people who are successful in recovery, those people are out on the extremes. And if you're in the extremes, those people rarely get healthy. Is that really the kind of special and unique that you want to be? So wrapping it up, I want to give you a couple of quotes that have really helped me. And this first one is usually misappropriated to Herbert Spencer. It's actually, I think I've done that in the past. It's actually a guy named William Paley. And that is, there is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep us in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Really, what we're saying there is you have to do the things that you've been told will help you. If you do them, stick with them. The last quote is from the AA Big Book, and that is, half measures avail us nothing. So I'm going to close with that. I hope you have gotten something out of this. I know I kind of laid it out there pretty heavy, but it really is important. It's so important. And I really hope that you can find your way to moving through that unique feeling and getting some connection with like people and being able to accept the help that's being offered. And if you need, or if you would like my help or Sam's help, give us an email at asktheunfaithful@gmail.com. Or if you just want to ask a question that you want answered either in a short or in one of the full episodes, just email us there again. Thank you very much. Have a great day.